We should believe that is a possibility because Bill Belichick said it himself at the owners' meetings last week. But should there be a quarterback competition, Giles?
No, there shouldn't be. I mean, look, I understand that a lot of people want to hang on to the fact that, the Patriots drafted Tom Brady in the 6th round and they turned him into the greatest quarterback of all time. But thinking that Bailey Zappe, a 4th-round pick, coming into his 2nd year in the league, is all of a sudden going to be the next Tom Brady or anything close to it or even be a playoff-winning quarterback just doesn't make sense to me when you just used a 1st-round pick on Mac Jones for a reason a couple years ago. So the idea there, to me, it's more an indictment on Mac Jones, bless you, if there were to be a quarterback competition than anything else.
I think there will be competition.
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick termed it this way at the owners' meetings. He said this is what we do at every position. He was asked specifically, is that just a quarterback or that's sort of your philosophy team-wide? And he said, yeah, that's what we do. I would just say, based on conversations that I've had this week, the expectation there is that Mac Jones is going to be the starter. And that Mac Jones is actually going to perform better than he did last year because of some of the changes that they've made to the offensive staff. So while I think the expectation is that there will be competition, the expectation is also Max, that guy, number 10, is going to be the one who wins the competition.
Yeah, I think it's so the way first of all, I think it's important to know Mac Jones has been on the building on a daily basis, my understanding, and so has Bailey Zappe, and they're getting to know the new offensive coaches, and so that's all positive. And I think this is off to a good start. But yeah, I think that in a way, Bailey's like the ideal stalking horse here for Bill, to make sure that Mac is where he needs to be. And I think part of the thing with Mac is, if you look at him physically, versus Bailey Zappe, I don't think there's a gigantic difference between the two. So if you say Mac Jones, the reason he's a 1st-round pick, his superpower is his brain. Well, if you're not following the coaching, that sort of negates your superpower. And then you just become an average quarterback, which is what he was last year. And so I think it's going to be a big piece of this is going to be, does Mac buy all the way in to Billy O'Brien right away? And if he doesn't, he's got a guy behind him who they know will. So in that way, I think Bailey Zappe is an ideal stalking horse for Bill Belichick to keep Mac Jones where he needs him to be.
Just to push back on the superpower conversation part of it, I think part of the reason it didn't work out all that well last year is that in some ways, they tried to remove that from him, is my understanding. They tried to simplify things at the line of scrimmage, which is great, especially when you're trying to install a new offense and you have new leadership on the coaching staff. But it also is tamping down what your most important player's strength is. In simplifying things, you made what makes Mac Jones pretty good a little bit less than.
Yep.
Phil, are they in this position to have a quarterback competition when they have a 1st-round pick on their roster because they've lost faith in Mac, or because they see something in Bailey Zappe?
It could be a little bit of both, right? Listen, all the credit in the world should be heaped on Bailey Zappe for performing the way he did when inserted in the way that he was. Was it perfect? No. I think, did you see some of the physical limitations that everybody in the league, which is why he slipped to the 4th round, knew he had coming in? Yes. But to hold his own and to show the poise, Giles, that he did in those scenarios, you can't help but watch that if you're a coaching staff and say, this guy deserves more opportunities.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Bailey Zappe performed well, and that's why you got the best reaction out of Foxborough that you did all season long when he came in that Monday night game against the Bears. You put Mac Jones in an unwinnable situation last year. And so now you went out and got the offensive coordinator. Why did you do that? Why are you going back on it saying, all right, we're going to get Bill O'Brien because obviously that didn't work. We got to find out what we have in this 3rd-year quarterback. That's why
this is not unprecedented even right now. Brock Purdy's a 7th-round pick, and the Niners are putting the team behind him over a 1st-round pick who is healthier than the 7th-round pick is. So it's not like this sort of situation is unprecedented, especially when a guy who's got limited opportunities takes advantage of it.
Bert, do you buy what Dan Patrick was saying on his show today, that there's that the locker room split, that some of the guys would prefer Bailey Zappe over Mac Jones?
Phil's in there every day, so he's probably better to answer this than me. But I do think that locker room was a weird place last year because I think there was a lot of people there were a lot of people in there who weren't buying into the coaching, and so I think there were fractured opinions all over the place on what was going wrong, on why the program wasn't working the way that it's become accustomed to be working. I think there were a lot of different factions in that locker room last year.
Well, and Devin McCourty earlier this offseason alluded to something along those lines, right? I would just say, based on what I know, talking to people on the offensive side of the ball who I think have opinions that have weight, okay? I don't know what Yannick Kajus thinks about the situation, all right? But in terms of some of the other players in that locker room,
We're not trying to
I would say they are decisively looking at Mac Jones as the starter for this team moving